Welcome to this video as we continue building a RemindMeApp application with Kivy. In the previous part of this series, we added back-end logic to our add reminder item that permitted us to save reminder event into the database. The following concepts were covered: ORM for data modeling with SQL Alchemy, lightweight database with SQLite 3, validation and serialization with Pydantic, database migration with Alembic, consuming environment variable with python.env. In part 7 of this series, we will build a UI that lists reminder items and also give options for users to manage, to filter, and to search reminder items. Take a look at what we will cover in this video. So at the end of the video, this is what we will have, and we can see here two sections. The first one has the filter, calendar, and the search field, and the downer part has the list of all the items that we currently have in our database. And we can see here, for example, we have the label and the days. Here we have the time. Here we have a tick to indicate the state of this reminder item. Right now it is active, and here we have pending because it has not yet been triggered. And we have the three icons here. The first one indicates a pop-up, and the second one indicates a sound or audio, and the last one indicates a repeat. Okay, so we can see, for example, here we see that this will trigger a sound and not a pop-up, and this does not repeat. So we can see the icon kind of like represent some of these options. And here we have these three vertical dots that lead to a pop-up. So if I click on this, it's gonna open some options that we can modify or update our update this reminder item. We can delete it, we can change the state here. And when we come to the top, we see that here we can click on this button and we have these different features. So we can say we want to have all the events that will trigger on Tuesday, and we want to have those that are pending and also those that are active, so we can have that. And when we go out of that pop-up, we can see this section indicates the option that was selected, and here it says the day is Tuesday, the status is pending, and the state is active. And we can go ahead and click on this to cancel the filter. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to support the content. Code with
Eno.
So this is the UI we'll be implementing in this video. We can see it is divided into two sections. The upper section here, I like to call it the search filter view, and the downer part, I like to call it the list view. In the upper part, we have three important features. We have the first one here is the filter that's going to open a pop-up where we can select a few options. Here we have a placeholder for the calendar, so this is where we'll have the calendar button, and when we click on this button, it's going to open a calendar pop-up. And here we have the search field where we can search reminder event. And the downer part has two sections. Technically, we have the first one that displays options that was selected in this filter here, and the reason why I have it down here will be understood when we start implementing. But here I just want you to understand that the downer part here is made up of two sections, and this section here that contains information about the filter can be dismissed by this by clicking on this X button. And here we have an example of how an item will be represented. We have here the label, and here we have the number of days. Here we have the time, and here we have the state that indicates if the event is active or not. Here it says it is active because we have the tick, though it is red. And in the implementation, I will actually change the color of this because I couldn't find the right icon for this. And here we have the status that tells us if the item is pending or has passed. And here we have three placeholders for some icons, and the first one will be for pop-up to know if the event will lead to a pop-up. And here we have an audio if the event will lead to a sound being played when the time reach. And here we have repeat if the event will repeat throughout the days that was selected. And here we have this vertical dot that leads us to another pop-up to select some few options. Okay, so this helps us to manage our event. So we have here the option to delete, option to change the state of our event, either active or inactive. And here we have the edit that will help us to edit our event. All right, so this is the UI that we will use for this video. Okay, so for this section, we will move to the source folder, and here we're gonna look for the views, and in the views, we're gonna look at the list reminder item folder. Here we can find two files. The first one is a Kivy language file, and the second one is a Python file. Like I always say, I like to put my UI related logic here in my Kivy language file, and my non-UI related logic in my Python file. This may change, okay, but I like to always keep them simple like this. And when we move to our Kivy language file, we're gonna remove this because this was a placeholder from the previous videos. And here we're gonna make sure that we follow the logic that we have here in this diagram. So let me just open this and make it really simple to understand. So we have this, and here we can see that we have two sections in this case based on what I explained. Okay, so the first section would be for the search filter view, and the second section will be for the list view. So here we're going to use a grid layout, and the grid layout is going to have one column and two rows. And let me just put a padding of 5.5. I already explained the padding in the previous videos. So here the first row will be for the filter. Okay, so here we're gonna say grid layout, and here we're gonna say the column will be, we can see here it has three columns. The first one is for the filter, the second one is for the calendar, and the third one is for the search. So here we're gonna have three rows, and the padding here will be 5.0. And let's just say the size, just to make sure that it occupies this small space here. So we're gonna say the size hint y would be none, and we're gonna set the size to, let's say 2 or 25 dp. So I already explained in my previous video that for the height to work, okay, we need to make sure that the size hint y is set to none. Okay, and just down here I'm gonna paste this color. Okay, gonna paste this color using the canvas before, and that's for the first row. For the second row is gonna be a grid layout, or let's just say box layout. Okay, though I like to use grid layout. So here's gonna be a box layout with orientation, let's say vertical, and here I'm just gonna put a label for now, just a placeholder to keep the space. All right, so here I'm gonna say list view. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and save that and open our terminal and run the application. So we can see when we come here, we see this. So this is what we have. The upper part is for the search filter view, and the downer part is for the list view. All right, so let's focus on this first part. Okay, and here we're gonna use Kivy MD. Okay, because I don't want to download icons for this. Here we need to provide an icon for the filter, icon for calendar, and here we need to put a search bar here. Okay, so I don't want to download icon for this because the Kivy MD has already good icons. So what I'm gonna do is that here, let me just put this. This will be the UI 1.1, and this one here is gonna be the UI 1, and here is gonna be the UI 1.2. Okay, so in the UI 1.1, just down here, we're gonna put our MD icon button. MD icon button. Just make sure that I have it here. So MD icon button. This will be for the filter. So the size hint X, that is the width, would be 0.1, really small. and the icon here is gonna be the filter outline. Okay, so we can see here the filter outline shows this nice icon for the filter, and we're gonna set the position hint to be center horizontally or center vertically, sorry. So we're gonna set the center Y. So here I'm gonna just remove this, and here I'm gonna say 0.5 here, and the on press is gonna be will be implemented later on. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy this and paste it here for the second MD icon button. So this one is gonna be for the calendar, so I'm gonna say calendar. Okay, and move to the next one. This will be, so this will be for the instead this will be the search. So yeah, I'm not gonna use the MD icon button, I'm gonna use the MD text field. Okay, so the mode of this will be outline. Okay, and the size hint X will be 0.8. We can see here these two buttons altogether they occupy 0.2, and the remaining will be occupied by the text field. And here we're gonna say the position here is gonna also be vertically centered, and here we're gonna say the height will be, let's just say 20 dp, because this has a tendency of going above the box field. Okay, this have the tendency of going above the space it has been given. So here we're gonna make sure that before the height is functional, we have to set the size hints Y to none. Okay, and here the color, we will set the color to this. Okay, and here we're gonna add that icon. Okay, this search icon that we can see here. Okay, so we're gonna add it with the MD text field trailing icon, and the icon here will be magnify. Okay, and here we are going to handle the on text as well. So the on text will happen here. Okay, when information is entered into the text field, we want to make sure we react to it using this event. And here also we are going to handle the on press event later on. Okay, same as with all the different buttons. All right, so let's go ahead and run this and see what we have. All right, perfect. Next up, we will build this pack where we can list all our reminder items. For that, we're going to use the recycle view of Kivy. It is also good because the data in it, when the data in it changes, it updates the list view. Okay, and for that, we will move to make sure that we are in the list reminder Kivy, just down. Okay, just down here. Here we are going to build reminder list view, and this will use a view class called reminder state. We are going to build this very soon, and it's going to use the recycle box layout. Okay, so this is just like the box layout that is going to contain each of these items. Okay, so this is what we have here, and here we'll say it has the padding of 10 and the spacing of 10, and we can set a default size. Yeah, we are going to skip the width, and the height will be let's say 56 dp, and we can set the default size hint here to 1 none, and the size hint Y will be none, because we want to set the height to be serve maximum or minimum height, and the orientation here will be vertical. Okay, because we want to list them vertically. So once we have this, I'm gonna copy this because we need to define it in our Python file, and I'm gonna move to my Python file for that. And just down here, I'm gonna call it class this, and it's going to inherit the recycle view from Kivy. Let's go ahead and import that. So right here, we're gonna say from Kivy URX recycle view, import recycle view. So yeah, we're gonna inherit it, recycle view. All right, so this will define the init, and in this init we're going to set the data. So it monitors this data, okay, the value of this data, and if anything changes here, it's gonna update the list. Okay, so we're gonna see that in action very soon. And here I'm gonna consume that from the service reminder. All right, and later on we're going to change it to consume from the database. So for now, we're gonna place just we're going to hard code this data here. So if I move to the service, the service right now, where is the service? So let's go to the service, and in the reminder service, just let's say below here, I'll go ahead and define fetch data, and this will return data in the format of a list of dictionary, where the key is going to be a string, and a value will be either a string or an integer. All right, so I'll just go ahead and paste the data here, and we're going to take a look at the data. So here we can see this data will have this is a list of dictionary, and each item in the dictionary represents a reminder item. So we can see here we have the ID, the label, the alert time, the date, the days here is a string. Okay, so because we are just testing for now, but later on we are going to use Pydantic to transform it to a list of string. Same with this alert types, that's going to be a dictionary, and the repeat is going to be a boolean. But for now, for testing purposes, we're going to maintain everything to a string. So we have the alert time, the days, state, status, alert types, and repeat. So we have this for all the data that we want to consume. All right, so with that out of the way, we can come back to our Python file, and here we're gonna import the service. So we're gonna say from source.service reminder, or let me say import reminder service, import or reminder as, so let's see, import reminder as reminder service, and down here we're gonna say this, and we're gonna fetch the data from here. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is that we are going to build the reminder state. Okay, so the reminder state takes care of each of these items that we can see here. For example, this that is displayed here, and for that we're going to create a class here called reminder state, and this is going to inherit the recycle data view behavior. So we can go ahead and import it here. So from Kivy URX recycle view dot views, import recycle data view behavior, and it's also going to inherit a box layout. So we are going to say from Kivy URX box layout, import box layout. So with that, we can come to our reminder state, and we inherit it here, and the box layout as well. So what this does is that it's going to define the fields that we can consume at the level of our reminder states. Okay, so it has to be in line with the field that we have in our data. We can see here we have ID, label, alert time, day, state, and so on and so forth. So here I'm gonna just copy this just to make sure that we have we don't make a mistake here. okay, and I'm gonna move it here. Okay, once I've established it, I'm going to delete it. All right, so the first one will be ID. The ID is numeric in this case, so we're gonna import it here. So here we can say from Kivy properties import. We are going to need the numeric property. We are also going to need the object property, and we are going to need also the string property. I don't know if we need the object property now, but definitely later on we're going to need that. Let's make sure that my spelling is right. So string property. All right, so here we come here, we say this is going to be numeric property, and the label will be string property, and I think everything else is a string property, so I'm just gonna make like this. So alert type would be this will be this, and states will be this, status will be this, and repeat will be this. Oh, make sure, don't know why we have this like that. And the alert types will be this. Okay, so we make sure that it is in line with the data that we are receiving. All right, so once that's out of the way, we go back to our Kivy language, and here we can define the reminder state. I'll probably move it up here. If not, I think it won't be recognized by this list view, so we can move it up here just for safety measures. All right, so just to make sure that we understand what we're doing, we said the reminder list view is gonna be this section here. Okay, and this section will contain each of these reminder items, and each of these reminder item is represented by the reminder state. All right, so at the reminder state, we are going to build this section here. Okay, and because we have many data, okay, that we introduce here, and each of these data is going to represent this box here. So based on the data we have here, we're going to have many of these boxes here. All right, so right here we're going to use create layout because I like create layout, and I'm just gonna paste the background color that we will have here, and the column will be, it's gonna have two columns. The first column will be this, all of this that we can see here. All right, and the second column will be for these three dots. All right, perfect. So here the first column will be a box layout, and the box layout will have an orientation of vertical. So vertical because we're going to have the label on top, the days, and everything else down here. So let's make sure that the size is okay. So we're going to set the size hint x of 0.9. That is the width. Okay, the width will be this, and the label, which is the first part, will represent the label. Okay, the label of our reminder item. So here we are going to consume it from the root label. So the root comes from this particular class here, and we can see we actually define the label here and define all the other fields that we are consuming from the data that comes from here. Okay, so here we're gonna say the label with the will be this, and let's say the color, let's set it to white, so it's gonna be 1 1 1 1. It's gonna be white, and the outline color will be this, and let's just say the outline width will be 10, and the font size will be 25. Okay, So let's just go ahead and run this and make sure everything works fine before we add the other properties. So let me make sure that I have fixed everything. And all right, so I think it has to do with some import, and let's just check the import at the level of the list reminder just to be sure first before we move to all right, so we can see here we have this issue here, and let me just make sure that I fix other things. So here we have the outline. I don't know why it's not highlighted. All right, so perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it again. All right, so okay, we can see it is not appearing. It doesn't appear there. So the reason why it's not appearing is because it is still hanging. All right, so we can see here the list view, reminder list view is still hanging. We need to make sure that we insert it here. This is a section where we want to list all our reminder item. So we are going to remove this placeholder that we put here, and we are going to say we are going to do this. And here I can just put an ID just for the sake of it, but later on we're going to use this ID. All right, so we're gonna do this, and we can go ahead and run it again. All right, so we can see here we have this is the list of all the different items that we have, and we are displaying just the label for now. So let's continue by adding these remaining parts, the days and the time and so on and so forth. So we will come back to the states. I think it is down here. All right, so after we have the label, we are going to add another label. This time is going to be for these days. All right, so here we're going to say text will be root days, and let's say the font size here will be 25 or 15. Make it smaller, and the color here will be this. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this just to make sure that we have what we need. All right, so we have this. So the next one will be to include this one. So here we're going to use a box layout for this. Okay, and here we're gonna say box layout, and the orientation of course will be horizontal. Okay, so the first label will be for the alert time, so we're gonna say label text root alert time, and here we're gonna say the font size will be 10, or let's say 19. Okay, so the second one here is gonna be for the state, and here we want to use an icon, so we're going to use the icon from Kivy MD, and we're going to use the Kivy MD icon for this. And here we are going to use the icon will be based on the state, so we want to use the tick for a state of active and a cross for the state of inactive. All right, so we're gonna say the state here will be check. We're gonna use the check icon if root.state equals to active, else we're going to use the alpha x. Okay, so here the color will be based on this state. So if the state is active, it's gonna be green, but if the state is inactive, it's gonna be red. So here again we're gonna see the icon color will be green if root state equals to active, else we're going to have red. And just here we're gonna set the size to 18. All right, so I'm gonna copy this. This will be let's say no, we don't have an icon here. Here we have another text which is pending or passed, so we're gonna have a label here, and the text will be root status, and the font size, let's say font size will be 19, and the color of course will be green if pending and red if passed. So here I'm just gonna copy this just to save time, and I'm gonna say this will be if the root.status equals to pending, else ret. Or we can say it will be ret if pass, or let me just do it like this. So it will be ret if status equals to pass, else let's say it will be white. Okay. All right, so here we are going to adjust the width of this text here with the size hint x. Let's say it will be 0.9. Okay, and now the next thing is to have these various boxes here. So here we are going to include them in a box layout. Okay, so we are going to have a box layout here, and the orientation will be, oh, let's make sure that it is out of here, so on the same line with this label and MD icon. So here we're gonna say the orientation will be let's see, so it's like this. So it's gonna be horizontal. Let me reduce this down. Horizontal, and let's see, we're going to use the some icons from Kivy MD. So we're gonna say MD icon. So the icon that we're going to use here is gonna be for the pop-up. Okay, this is for the pop-up. It's gonna be open in new. Okay, if let's say, because based on the data that we have, so we can see here, based on the data that we have, okay, so we are going to search if pop-up is found in this string or sound is found in this string. Okay, so we're gonna say if pop-up in both alert types, okay, else we have nothing in there. And here we're gonna say the font size will be 1 sp. We're gonna set the size hint x to be 0.1, and the size hint, let's say the size hint to be none. Somehow this doesn't work with, so we're going to check it. Somehow this doesn't work. Okay, I had to do a lot of gymnastics for it to resize properly. All right, so here I'm going to copy this and duplicate it for the other options. So here is going to be for music, so the second one is for music. So here we're going to use music. So we're going to say music if sound is found in these alert types, else nothing. And here we're gonna say the size here will be, let me put 71. Okay, so we're going to test the various sizes and see which one worked perfectly fine. So the last one will be for the repeat. So we're going to use the repeat variant. If root.repeat equals to true, else nothing. And here we're gonna use 72. All right, so remember we're just testing these sizes to see which one works better. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and run it and just make sure that we don't have issues. So here the indentation is too much, so we're gonna try to reduce the indentation here. Okay, so we go again and run it. Okay, so right now we have, what do we have? It says the alert time. So let's see if we have alert time in here, just to be sure. So we have two alert types, so this is a typo, so we're gonna say alert time here. Let's go ahead and run it again. So perfect, so we can see it actually displays well. So we have the label, the days, and we have here the tick to indicate active and X to indicate inactive, and we have the different icons here to represent the pop-up, the music, and the repeat. All right, so let's go ahead and see how we can add the three vertical dots here. That will help us to open the options to edit, to change the state, and also to delete an item. All right, so back in our Kivy language file, we can see here we set we have two columns. Okay, so this was the first column here. So we'll go ahead and implement the second column. So here I'm gonna just go down here, and right here I'm gonna say here we have I'm gonna use, because this one is gonna use a button, and the button is gonna have an icon. Okay, so because of that, I'm going to use the Kivy empty. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna say md icon button, and here we're gonna set the size hint x to be 0.1. okay, so remember the first column we set the size to be 0.9 so that it is long like this. Okay, it can occupy all the space, and this button occupies just this little place here, space here. So for that, we're going to set it to 0.1, and for the icon we are going to use the dots vertical. Okay, dot vertical, and make sure that the position is centered horizontally, or centered vertically, sorry. So here we're gonna say the pose hint, and here I'm gonna remove for the horizontal and allow for the vertical, and here I'm gonna set it to 0.5. And of course the on press event will be handled soon, so such that when we press on this button, it's gonna open a pop-up. All right, so let's go ahead and run this and see what we have. So all right, so we have something like this. All right, so next let's go ahead and implement this pop-up. All right, so let's move back to our Python file, and just here in the list reminder item, we are going to establish our pop-up here, because the pop-up needs to be created when we click on this button, and it disappears when we exit it. Okay, we want to make it dynamic. Okay, so for that we're going to establish it here, and here we're gonna set the init here, and after setting the init, we're going to have an instant variable that is going to represent our selected reminder. Okay, so here is going to be either an integer or none, and by default it's going to be none. So this will represent the different item that we are selecting. Okay, and here we're going to build our menu items. All right, so it's going to be a list of dictionary. So it's going to have a view class. So the view class is going to be an md icon button, because we want to use the icon of Kivy empty, and the icon here is gonna be, let's say, a pencil for the edit. Okay, and on release, if we click on that button, we want to open a function. So here we're gonna use lambda, and we're gonna say the x here is gonna represent edit. So this pencil is for edit, and this button is for edit. So when we click on that icon, it's gonna send an edit information to that particular function that we are calling. So the function will be, let's call it menu call label, and here we're gonna pass in x. X is gonna indicate that it is an edit. Okay, or let's call it callback, not callable. Okay, so let's do the same thing for all the different options. So we have here the next one is gonna be for the delete. So we're gonna use the icon delete, and we're gonna pass in delete here. And the last one is gonna be for the change of state. So here we're gonna use state machine, and here we're gonna pass in state. Okay, so once we have that, let's go ahead and define this method. So here we're gonna say the method will be this, and it's gonna pass in the option. Okay, let's call it option. It's gonna be a string, and here it's gonna handle menu item selection, or let's say handle menu option for selected item. Okay, and here we're gonna make sure that we just print it for now. Okay, we'll come back to the logic later on. So let's say we selected option on the selected reminder. Okay, perfect. So now we need a function that will help us to open a pop-up. But before we do that, let's go ahead and make sure that we establish the pop-up the right way. Okay, so once we have the item here, we want to make sure that we set the pop-up here. So we're gonna say serve drop down equals to, we're gonna use the MD drop down menu that comes from Kivy MD. So we're gonna import it somewhere here. So from Kivy MD dot menu dot UIX dot menu, we're gonna import MD drop menu. So right here we're gonna say it's gonna have the MD drop menu, and in here we're gonna set the items to be serve dot menu item that we actually established above there. The position will be automatic, and let's just say the border margin will be, let's use 8 dp, and we're gonna adjust it if it doesn't look good. Okay, so once we have that, we need now a method that's going to help us to open the pop-up. So let's call it open menu, and here it's going to take in serve, and it's going to take in the button that we are clicking. Okay, this is because we want to make sure that the pop-up is attached to that specific button. Okay, and so we are going to pass in the button, and the button is going to be of type the MD icon button. Okay, so let's go ahead and import that from Kivy md.uix.button, import MD icon button. So we come here, the data type of this button will be MD icon button, and it's going to take in the reminder item, or the reminder ID, sorry, and here it's going to be integer. So this is going to open the pop-up. So let me just put a doc string here, say open drop down menu attached to the 3 dots icon. Okay, and yeah, what we're going to do is that we are going to use the drop down that we defined above here. Okay, and we are going to set the button from where this pop-up is being called, or from where this drop down is being called. So we're gonna say button here, dot color, sorry, dot color. It's gonna be equals to button, and here we're gonna set the reminder ID, or we're going to set the selected reminder to be the reminder ID. Okay, selected reminder equals to reminder ID, and here we're gonna call the drop down. So we're gonna open it basically. All right, so with that we can go ahead and call this particular method in this Kivy language file. So here we have a place, we have an event on press that we can react to. So when we click on that event, we can go ahead and open that particular drop down. So here we're gonna say apps.root, sorry, dot let's see if we have an ID for that already. Not sure. I think we do, because if we come to the base Kivy language, we can see here we have an ID that represents our list item. So we can go ahead and copy this ID, and we say this is going to be app.root. It's going to lead us to that base .kivy. There we can specify the ID we're looking at, and we can now call the method open menu, and here we pass in serve, okay, which is the button we are clicking, we are opening the button we want to open the drop down from, and the second parameter will be the ID. So we can specify it with the root.id. Okay, so once we have that, we go ahead and test it, and we can see here, if we click here, we're gonna see it's gonna open next to the button, and when we click here, it open next to the button, and here next to the button. All right, so let's do this. When we click on, let's say, deleting this particular reminder item, we can see we have, yes, it says selected delete on item ID 3. So we can do the same thing here, and let's say we want to edit this one. It says selected edit on item 1. So we have all the information that we need in order to perform the various actions. All right, coming back to this section here, we are going to work on the filter options, so that when we click on this filter, we should have a pop-up that is going to permit us to select the various options that we want to filter by. All right, so let's take a look at how the finished product will look like. All right, so this is what we have. This is a screenshot that shows us the finished product. So we have here the filters is divided into different sections. We have the first one display the options to select the days. So we have from Monday to Sunday, and here for the status we have pending and pass. We have for the state active and inactive. For the alert we have sound or pop-up, and the repeat we have yes and no. So let's take a look. Let's see how we can achieve this. All right, so let me take this out of the way, and here we'll make sure we are in our Kivy language, the list underscore reminder.kivy, and just write down here we are going to define our pop-up. So let's call it reminder list filter pop-up, and here we're gonna say auto dismiss. This will make sure that when we click outside the pop-up, is going to close the pop-up. Okay, and the title based on this is gonna be filter, so we make sure it is filter, and we are going to adjust the width and height of this pop-up. So let's go ahead and do that with size hints, and the width will be 0.9 and the height will be 0.65. So now this is divided into different sections like we see here, and we're going to use the grid layout to divide them. So we're going to say grid layout, and the rows will be, this has 1 2 3 4 5 rows, so we're going to say 5 rows, and we're going to see the spacing here will be 10 10. Okay, so each of this section will be defined with a box layout. So the first one we're going to say box layout, and the orientation of course is going to be vertical because we have the days here, and everything else is going to fall down here. So orientation could be vertical, and let's say the size hint y will be set to none because we want to set the height here. So the height here will be 60 dp. And for the background, we can see the background color here. We are going to use this for the background, so I'm going to paste it here. All right, and the first label will be for the days here. All right, so we're going to say label text is going to be this, and let's see how we can style it like this. Okay, we already did something like this for our for the list item, so we're gonna do the same thing. So here we're gonna say we want to put this, we want to centralize this label, so we're gonna say horizontal alignment will be center, and for that to work we need to set the text size, and here we're gonna say it will be the width divided multiplied by .8, and the height will be none. Okay, so here the color will be white, so we're gonna say 1 1 1 1, and we're gonna say bold. Let's just say bold. No, let's not put bold here. Even italic, I don't want to put italic. And let's just say outline here will be, so the outline color will be this, the outline width will be 10 and the font size will be 23. All right, so we are done with this first part. Now we want to make sure that we go ahead and program this, go ahead and code this part here. And here we are going to use a grid layout, and we are going to set our 7 columns to represent each of these days. So here we're going to say grid layout, and the column will be 7 column, and we want to set the size hint y to none because we want to set the height to be let's say well, let's leave this height for now. I'm going to I will say if it's that it doesn't really appear like it is here, we're gonna set the height. So for now I'm gonna say the spacing will be 10 10. All right, so the first part here will be for Monday, and Monday will be a box layout with orientation vertical. So we're gonna say box layout, orientation vertical, and the first will be the day Monday. So we're gonna say label, and here we have text Monday, and the size hint X, that is the width, will be 0.1, and the font size will be, let's say, 9dp, and the post hint, so we want to make sure that it is aligned. Post hint, we want to make sure that it is aligned center X 0.5. And once we are done with this day, we can handle the checkbox. So down here we're gonna have the checkbox. So the checkbox, we have position hint as well, will be center X will be 0.5, and here we'll have the size hint 0.5 0.5. I'll just go ahead and paste the color of this particular checkbox, so I can put like this. All right, so this is what we have for for one of the sections that contains the day and the checkbox. So we can multiply, or we can repeat it for the remaining days. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and set this pop-up so that when we click on this button, it should display the pop-up so that we see how it looks like before we continue. All right, so for that, we'll first make sure that we define this in our Python file. So we can see here, I'm going to copy this and move to my Python file just down here. I'm going to say class this, and this is going to inherit pop-up. So we want to make sure we import it here. So from Kivy.urx popup, import popup. So I have it here because I will add some logic in here later on. Okay, so for now, let's just go ahead and say pass. Okay, so back to our Kivy language file, we are going to see how we can call that. For us to call that, we need to import factory. So we go ahead and do that. We're gonna say to import in the Kivy language file, we use the hash colon, and we say import let's import factory from Kivy.factory. Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and just copy again my pop-up. Let me just do that real quick. Copy my pop-up here, and I'm going to look for this filter button. Okay, so let me just search for our filter outline thing. All right, so once I'm here, I can go ahead and uncomment this on press event, and here I'm gonna say factory dot I'm gonna call the pop-up, and yeah, I'm gonna open it like this. All right, so let's go ahead and try this and see how it looks like. All right, so if I click on this, I can see here I have this, but somehow the different check box and the days are not displayed here. So let's take a look at what the issue could be. All right, so when we come back to the pop-up, so let's see. All right, so if we take a look at this, we can see here the grid layout is under the label, so it shouldn't be like this. So I'm just gonna make sure that I copy everything and just remove it from this label. So all right, so yeah, I'm gonna just move make it the same line as this label. All right, so let's go ahead and try it again. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and add this one here. All right, so let's move on to the pop-up, and yeah, I can just go ahead and let me see. Yeah, so we're gonna put the next row, okay, after this row that we just executed, this one here. So I'm gonna add this row here. So for me to do that, I'm gonna go right at the bottom, and just here I'm gonna just make sure that I'm on the same line. All right, let me just make sure. Let me just put my box layout here, then I'm gonna check it out, okay? Because this has some issues when I all right, so let me see. Oh, they are not in the same line. Okay, so it should be somewhere here. I hope I got it right. Perfect. All right, so here the orientation will be vertical, and let me go ahead and set the height. For that, I'm gonna set the size hint y to none, and the height will be let's say smaller, because here the first one I set it to 60, and this one is gonna be 45 dp. And yeah, I'm just gonna paste the background color, okay? And the first one would be this label here, status. So I'm gonna say label. Basically it's the same thing as we have here, so I can go ahead and copy what we established already here. So let me go ahead and copy this and come down here. So we have this, and we're gonna go ahead and build these two parts here. So yeah, we can use box layout, or you can use grid. So yeah, I can use grid layout. Let me make sure it's out of this label. Same mistake I did. So yeah, we can say the column will be 2. So we're gonna have 2 columns. The first one will be this one, and the second one will be this one here. So 2 columns, and let's go ahead and set the width and the height, so to make sure that they are centralized here. All right, so we're gonna say the size hint will be none, so that we're gonna set the width. Let's say the width is 200 dp, and the height will be 17 dp. So we're gonna make it centralized. So we're gonna say center x 0.5. all right, and let's see, here the first one will be a box layout, so we're gonna say box layout, and the orientation of course is gonna be horizontal. And here we can say the first one will be a label, the label pending, so we will say text here will be pending, and let's say the size hint x will be 0.8. okay, so we will have a box here, and the label is going to occupy 0.8, a width of 0.8, and let's say the color here will be, to make it green, will be this, and the font size will be 9 dp. So after we have the label, we need to have the checkbox here. All right, so I can just go ahead and copy the checkbox that I had before. I don't know if much is gonna change from that checkbox. Let's just copy this, and down here gonna have something like this. Okay, so let me just make sure it looks good before we add the second part. All right, so let's just go ahead and add the second part because somehow this does not have the right width. Oh yeah, I'm gonna say let me just see. Yeah, we're gonna set the size hint x to 0.2. Okay, and let me go ahead and do the same thing for the pass. So I'm just gonna copy this and just down here, make sure on the same line, and I'm gonna paste it down here. And the second one is gonna be pass. Of course, yeah, it's gonna have red color. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and test that. Perfect. All right, so this was supposed to be status, not day. All right, so let me just make sure everything is fine. So yeah, so we are going to do the same for the state, the alert, and the repeat. Since they're the same thing, I'll just go ahead and do that and see you. All right, perfect. All right, so next we're going to handle the feature that should appear somewhere above here. So we can see that at this level, if we check back our diagram, we can see here we have this that contains the different options that was used in that feature. All right, so let's go ahead and build this. Okay, so for that we will go back to our language file just below here. So we are going to call it feature grid layout because it's going to use a grid layout. And here we're going to have two columns. Okay, we're going to have two columns because here the first column will contain the different options and the second column is going to contain this X button. Okay, to dismiss these sections here. Okay, so here we're gonna set the background color to be this. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that this would be filled dynamically. Okay, this will be filled dynamically based on the option that was selected from this feature. So I'm gonna make a put a space for that. So the space will be a box layout, and the ID here will be feature options, because we need an ID in order to access it at the level of the Python file. So once we access this box layout at the level of the Python file, we are going to add the various options based on what was selected during this, what was selected in this feature. All right, so here the orientation here will be vertical because we can see the different options are displayed vertically. All right, so and the size hint X here will be 0.9. Okay. All right, so once we have that section that's going to contain our options, we are going to have for the second column the button, and the text here is going to be X, and we can say the size hint X here will occupy the remaining portion, which is 0.1. And let's set a background color for this particular button to be basically same as this background color here. All right, so after we have that background color, because buttons usually have some dark color that we can actually remove with the use of the background normal, so we're gonna make sure we remove that. And for the color of that button, the text of that button will be red, so we can go ahead and use this. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and define this at the level of the Python so that we can add some logic in there. So we're gonna say class this, and it's going to inherit the grid layout. So let's make sure we have the grid layout imported. If we don't, we can import it. So from Kivy URX grid layout, import grid layout, and this will inherit the grid layout. Alright, so for now we'll just put pass here because we'll be working with the filter pop-up. Alright, so the filter pop-up will be the one to set this particular grid layout here. Alright, so let's take a look at the pop-up. So we have it here. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use some class attribute to keep track of all the options that will be selected. So this, just like we did with the add reminder. Okay, so we're going to use the same principles here. So here it's going to be this will be a list of string. So the reason why I'm using list of string throughout, even the status will be a list of string. I will explain it in a minute. So here we have this. So I'm going to just copy this so that we don't always repeat ourselves. So here we're going to have states, and here we're going to have alert types, and last but not least, repeats. Alright, so just like we did with the add reminder, here we will keep track, this class attribute will keep track of all the options that are selected under the days, under the status, state, alert type, and repeat. Okay, so once we have that, we can go ahead and build our check and the restore, just like we did for our with our add reminder. Just a reminder. So if we take a look at the add reminder, we can see that we did something similar. All right, so we had something similar here, and if I can see that, okay, so we had this for the days pop-up, for example. We had this function that is going to make sure that we add the option that was selected from the checkbox, and this one restore it. Okay, so here we are going to define the filter check that's going to make sure that it adds the option that was selected from our checkbox. So here it's going to take insert inactive, which is going to be Boolean, of course. The value is going to be string, and the option we are selecting is going to be a string. All right, so here we are going to make sure that if it's active, if we are activating the checkbox, if we are selecting this checkbox, for example, they want to make sure that we add what we are selecting in this particular fields. So we're going to say this, we use this underscore dict to get all the different class attributes, and here we can get the options. So the options here can be this, or status, or state, or alert type, or repeat. So once we have that, we go ahead and append the value. So the value will be, if we are dealing with status, it would the value here will be either active or inactive. So we go ahead and add that value in there. Else, okay, so let's make sure it's active. Else, we go ahead and remove it. So we'll do the same thing, option, and we remove the value. Okay, and now for the restore, we will stay restore filter check. It will take insert and take in the value we are restoring and the option as well. So here we're going to just say return value in this dot underscore dict, and we get the option. Perfect. So let's go ahead and use this, okay, so that we can check our the checkbox of the filter and also restore it. Okay, let's take a look at the filter. So we have a lot to do here. So here, let's take for example the first case. Here are the check boxes. All right, so here we'll say active will be root restore feature check, and here it takes in some parameter. It's gonna take Monday because we are dealing with Monday, and here we want to handle it at the level of days. All right, so the options will be days, and here for the unactive event, we're gonna call the filter check, and the filter check will pass in the self active. All right, so this will be either true or false based on the state of our checkbox, and we are dealing with Monday, and we are dealing with the options days. All right, so let's take a look at this for Monday and see if it works. Then we're gonna repeat it for all the different checkboxes. All right, so if we come here and say Monday and go out of it and come back, we can see Monday is being restored. Let's go ahead and do it for all of these checkboxes. All right, because it was a lot of code, I had to do it and just show you guys what I did. Okay, you can always check the code on my GitHub. But yeah, let's go ahead and check all the different restore feature and check, and all the restore filter check and the filter check that we have. We can see we have 15 of them. So this is for Monday, this is for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this is for pending, this is for pass, this is for active, this is for inactive, this is for sound, this is for pop-up, and this is for repeat. We can see for repeat, we pass in true if we are repeating, okay, and here we pass in false if we are not repeating. All right, with that, we can go ahead and test it to make sure that everything works as expected. So we can see we do this, and yeah, we do like this just to make sure that everything works as expected. So let's come back and see if this will be restored. So if we go out of it and we come back, all right, they are not being restored. So let's take a look and see what the issue could be. Of course, the issue will be at the level of the saving. This is not saved, so let me save it and restart my application again. And let's see, let's have this, and this. Then go out of it and come back. All right, so everything is restored. So let's see how we can make sure that after we have selected this, our feature options or our grid layout here will be created with all the options that was selected from this feature. All right, so we are building this section now. We are still building this section. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so back in our Python file, we already created this feature grid layout that we can use, okay, to build this dynamically. Okay, so we will go at the level of the filter still, and we are going to create a function here or a method. Let's call it create filter option display. Maybe the name is not good, but so this will create the this filter box here, or this filter grid layout. Okay, so let's say the filter winget will be equals to this. Okay, so we want to create our the filter, we want to create the filter option using this template here. Okay, and let's define this to control the size, because if we have, like, let's say right now we have two options here, the size would fit perfectly with these two options. If we have more, it's going to, you know, the height will increase based on the number of options that we have. So this will take care of that. And we're gonna say for option in, so let's say the first one will be this, and this will be serve.this. Okay, serve from .this from this. So this would be comma, sorry. Okay, so here we're gonna have status, serve.status. here we're gonna have state, serve.state. Here we have alert, let's call it alert, serve.alert types, and last one repeats, serve.repeats. Okay, so with that we can say if options, so if options 1, so if this, okay, if we have an option that we want to increase the size, we increase the size by, let's say, by 15. Okay, and here we're going to create a box layout because each of these will appear in a box layout, okay, inside this grid layout. So we're going to create a box layout here, and let me do it like this. Instead, I don't know, we can still use a box layout, but for me to be able to control this this space here, I will just use a grid layout. All right, let me just use a grid layout, and I'm gonna say the grid layout will have a column of 2. Okay, 2 column, and the padding, let's say the padding will be 15 15. Okay, all right, let me call it grid. Okay, not box. So the grid will add some layout. Okay, so the first one will be this particular the title of the options, which is this, for example. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say label will be, so let me import label here from kivy.uix.label, import label, and when I come down here, say label equals to this, and the text will be options 0, that is this first part of the option. Okay, and the font size will be, let's say, 10 dp, and the size hint x, that is the width, will be 0.1. all right, so once we have added the label, we want to add this second part here. So the second part will be grid.add winget label. The text will be this. Okay, so this is a list of string, so for that I'm going to use join. So I'm going to say have this and join, and I put options 1. Okay, the font size will be 8 dp, the size hint x will be 0.9, the h align will be left. So once we have that, we want to go ahead and add it to this feature winget. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So we say feature winget dot, so we want to add it in a specific location in this feature grid layout. So let's take a look at our Kivy language again. So if we take a look at our Kivy language, we said we will add it at this, in this box layout. We'll add it in this box layout. Okay, so let's make sure we can actually have access to this ID. So I'm gonna come here and say this, okay, and back at the level of this Python file. Okay, here I'm gonna say this dot add winget. All right, so we have the grid. So once we add it, we want to go ahead and set the height of that grid layout. So I'm gonna say feature width dot height equals to, use an f string here, this is gonna be size dp. Okay, so to make sure that the size works perfectly fine, we have to make sure that the size underscore hint y is equal to none. So here I can put here that size hint oh, not here, sorry. So I have it at this level. So size hint y equals to none. Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess we have everything here. So this will be called when we dismiss the pop-up. Okay, so when we dismiss the pop-up, this will be called to create the layout that will contain the options. All right, so let's go ahead and just put the function up here. So we are going to override the dismiss method. Okay, so here we're gonna just call the serve.create just to test it. How is it called? Okay, serve.create. Okay, before we return all of these, or let me just do it like this. Yeah, we have something like this. All right, let's go ahead and try that. Okay, doesn't work. Okay, let's take a look at why it doesn't work. All right, so after looking at it carefully, I saw that here I did not actually call this method. So just go ahead and fix that. Okay, so once we have that, okay, we can just do some checkup to see what happens here, just for me to be sure that everything works as expected. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and select a few options here, and when I go out of this pop-up, the exit is triggered, and we can see we have days, Thursday, status, date, and alert. All right, so once we have that, we need to now add that filter in this section here. So remember, we divided this into two parts. So if we go back to our Kivy language file, we can see let's look for reminder list view. So we can see here we have this reminder list view that actually lists all of these items here. All right, so here I'm going to add an ID here. I'm gonna call it reminder list box. Okay, so we want to make sure that we add the filter just above this reminder list view. All right, so I'm gonna copy that name and go to my Python file, and here, after I've done all this creation here, after I've created everything here, I want to go ahead and add this filter winged in that location just above this reminder list view. Okay, so for me to have access to that, I'm going to use the apps.getRunningApp to get the current running app. Okay, so for that I will import, so let me just put it here, from Kivy app, import app. Okay, and down here I'm gonna use it to get the current working app. So app equals to app get running app. So once I get the running app, I can go ahead and search for this particular section here, and I know that I can get it by looking at the base. Okay, so from the base I have the possibility to get that particular option. So from the base I'm gonna say app.root. It's gonna take me to the base, and just at the base we can see here, if we go to the base here, we can see the list reminder item has the ID list reminder item. So I can copy that and just right here I can say I want this, and from there I can go ahead and access this particular ID here. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here, and I'm gonna add winged, add the filter winged, and because I want to add it before this guy here, before this reminder list view, I'm gonna use an index of 1. Okay, so index of 1 is gonna add it above. It's gonna add it as the first item in this box layout. So I'm gonna say index equals 1. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. So I'm gonna restart it, and here I will say this. All right, so it says list reminder item object has no attribute reminder box. Of course, we need to expose this, so we're gonna go right up here. So we're gonna expose it here. Okay, so once we expose it, we come to our list item, and I think somewhere here. Oh no. All right, so once it's exposed, let me just see. Just by doing this, probably will be exposed. So let's try it again. So let's do it again. Perfect. So we just need to make sure that we check the size and everything. So we can see the days and status, everything looks good, but pending here, okay, the values of these options, it doesn't really fit. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at why that doesn't fit. So why did I create it? So we can see I created it somewhere here. So we can see here, this is not good, right? So we're using 80 dp here. So let's just put it to 8 dp. Okay. So when we fix that and we run it again, so we do like this, and let me say this, and this. Perfect. So we have this, and this is the X button. I don't know if it is really visible, but there's an X button somewhere here. Okay, perfect. So let's take a look. Let's see how we can, by clicking this X button, this will be dismissed, or this will be removed from this layout. So because this function here will apply both here and also at the level of the filter, because if we go ahead and unselect everything here, okay, we should be able to remove this guy here. Okay, so because it will function, it will work in these two places, we are going to put it as a function, okay, as a standalone function, maybe somewhere down here, and we're going to call it remove filter. Okay, so it's going to have access to the app because we need to navigate through the IDs. So we're going to say app.get running app. So once we have that, we want to make sure that we check if, so if we take a look at this, we want to check to make sure that if we have two layouts, okay, or two items in this particular box layout, then we know that a filter is being displayed. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. So originally the box layout has just one item, which is the reminder list view, but if we search the children of this particular box layout, I will find out that we have two items here. Then we want to make sure we delete the first one. Okay, so that's the same thing. That's what we're going to do here. So yeah, I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, so I'm gonna say if the length of this, okay, the children of this particular ID, because we can see this is the ID here, so this ID corresponds to this box layout. So if the children of this box layout is, let's say, more than one, we know that there's a filter somewhere there. Okay, so if this is greater than one, then we want to go ahead and remove the first one, because based on this we actually insert the filter at index 1. Okay, so we have to make sure we remove it. So we're gonna use this and remove winget. So the winget we're going to remove is the first child. Okay, so we're gonna say we want to remove this children, the first one. All right, so for that we are going to call it at the level of the filter grid layout, because the filter grid layout takes care of that particular filter button. Okay, so we can see just down here, this takes care of that button, which is somewhere here. All right, so here we're gonna say, let's call it clear filters. and here it's gonna call the remove filter. Okay, because these clear filters has two things to do. The first one is that it's going to remove the filter, and the second one is that it's going to reset all our all these options. Okay, so what we're going to do is that here we are going to just define a function called reset, and it's going to reset all of this. Okay, or let's make it a class method, because it's going to affect at the level of the class. Okay, so we're gonna use this class method decorator, and here it's gonna take on the CLS that represent the class, and we're gonna say class this equals to this, class status equals to this, class state equals to this, and class alert type equals to this, and last but not least, class repeat equals to this. Okay, so once we have that, we can go ahead and call it down here. Okay, all right, so once we have that, we can go now to the button. Okay, and on press event, we're gonna call it there, so it's gonna be root this. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and run this and see, make sure that it works as expected. So here we're gonna have this, select this, and here I can just click on this X button and it remove everything, and it clears also our options here at the level of the filter. All right, so we are not yet done. We have a few things to handle. At the level of the building the filter, we want to make sure that we remove everything that is there before we build a new filter. So since we have our remove filter already, here we can go at the level of the create filter option display. Here we can say before we build the filter, we want to make sure we remove any old filter there. All right, so once we have that, we can also check at the level of the dismiss. Okay, so because here we have this, if we can decide to remove, let me restart this. Okay, so here we can decide to add some options here, and here we come back and say, okay, we want just this. It's gonna remove the old one and build a new one. Okay, so we can decide to remove it at the level of this. So here if we see I unselected everything, and when I press here, we can see we have some few stuff going on here. So we can see we have this exporting. Okay, so if we want to make sure that at the level of the dismiss, okay, if no options were selected, then we can call the remove filter. All right, so what we are going to do is that just above here, after this we can say if not any. Okay, so call the serve this, serve status, serve state, serve alert type, serve repeat. So we use the any to make sure that if nothing has been selected, then we go ahead and call the remove filter, and we return nothing. Okay, so with that we can go ahead and test it again, and here we can say we can do this. Okay, so once we have this, we can go ahead and remove it from here. Okay, and everything disappears. All right, so let's fix a few things. We can see here the padding here is not really that good because it is close to the filter. So we can go to the list reminder. At the level of the list reminder list view, we can increase this to, let's say, 20. All right, so let's start it again. Okay, so we can see at least something has changed, right? So there's more space here, and also when we put our filter, we can see at least there's enough space. And here the button is not really visible, so to fix that we can take a look at that button. So we can take a look at that button and we can say bold. Let's say bold equals to true, and let's see. It's gonna fix that. This. All right, so we can see it's now visible. Okay. Perfect. All right, so that's it for this video. In our next video, we are going to work more on the filter and the search, so such that when we filter here, it should filter this data. Okay, and also when we search here, it should search this data. All right, thank you. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, share, comment, and like to support the content. Code with Eno. See you in the next video.